It's the beginning of day. Just reflecting on the various ways that one, understands Dhamma, enters the stream of Dhamma, penetrates the Dhamma. There's actually, really quite a few avenues of that, because sometimes we can lock ourselves into certain ideas or methodologies or perceptions of what's the how to do it, what's the right way, all that, and certainly in the suttas, and the primary way that it has been recorded, and what comes down to us is the hearing the Dhamma, listening to the Dhamma, hearing it, and hearing the teachings, and say another way is through teaching the Dhamma. Of course, a very famous discourse in the Kanda Samyutta of Khemaka, and him kind of trying to explain different aspects of around the khandhas and around realization, and he himself realized arahantship, and then others had various levels of realization. So that just having to teach it, explain it, which is certainly as one gains experience and practice, and then just having to talk to others about it sometimes. I mean, sometimes it seems so clear when you're sitting by yourself in your kuti, but then when you try to explain it or formulate it a bit for others, and that clarity goes out the window. And so that having to do that, and of course that's what, say, good spiritual friendships are helpful for. So that hearing the Dhamma, teaching the Dhamma, chanting the Dhamma, that chanting, recitation is something that happened in the Buddha's time and was passed on, and just having to committing various passages of the Dhamma to memory. It comes up in the mind when one is quiet, and helps one to reflect on it, or to sometimes clarify, or sometimes that just popping up in the mind. So that chanting, recitation. Like this morning at morning puja. Well, any chanting that we do tends to be either a recollection of the refuges in some way, shape, or form, or some Dhamma teaching, some Dhamma principles, and so that those come up in the mind, and then contemplating the Dhamma, actively reflecting, investigating, contemplating. That's in terms of the second factor of awakening, the second bojjhanga is Dhammavicaya, as I'd say. That kind of contemplation, investigation of Dhamma, turning it over in the mind, considering it, and taking an interest in trying to understand from different points of perspective. So that contemplation is very helpful. And the last one is that in this list, and I assume it's a commentarial list. It's the last one is meditation. So it's not when the mind gets settled. Sometimes there's a clarity that arises that helps. So that all of them work together. It's not just one over the other. There are all these different avenues of penetration of the Dhamma, understanding Dhamma, and to recognize that all of them are not just valid, but they are incredibly supportive and mutually supportive to each other. So that hearing of Dhamma, a teaching of the Dhamma, Dhamma Sakhacha Eta Mangalamuttama, that's talk on the Dhamma is a blessing. And chanting, contemplating, and the meditation itself. So that not to get too locked into separate little boxes of what one's doing in terms of practice, and recognizing how different avenues. Because sometimes our meditation can be the pits, but that hearing the Dhamma, chanting the Dhamma, contemplating the Dhamma, those help to get us back on track again. Sometimes the meditation gives you an insight that you can continue to explore in the contemplation and reflection. So it's these are all these different avenues are really important to be exploring and creating that kind of a web of Dhamma, so that the Dhamma really becomes a refuge.